What's up, guys? You know who it is, djwoopig, and welcome back to the channel. More specifically, welcome back to another episode on our Hercules Impulse 300 controller. Now, our fine friends out at Hercules sent over this controller for me to give you guys some lessons on the beginner basics of how to get started with DJing. So, in the last video, we covered setting up your cue points for success, coming in on the downbeat or coming in on the one, and we're going to use that to our advantage today as we talk about beat matching, or beat for beat matching, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to focus on today. Now, if you guys are just getting started, you may not know what beat matching is. Simply put, it's just taking two songs and gelling them together so it creates one seamless, continuous mix. So the tempo never changes, the beat never changes, and essentially your guests never stop dancing. If you've ever been to an event where they've got a DJ there, such as a nightclub or any type of event, the DJ should at least be playing songs that gel together and match together. There are instances where beat matching isn't necessary, such as a wedding ceremony. You're not going to beat for beat match the different songs of the bride coming down the aisle unless you're at a really fun and hip wedding. More than likely, you're just going to be fading in and out songs, not necessarily beat matching. Now, once we step over into something like a wedding reception or celebration, you want that party to essentially continue from start to finish, and that's where beat matching comes into play. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't come in and drop hits exactly on the one. We'll talk about that a little bit later, or hard drops. Those are totally fine, but for the most part, we need to be beat matching our way through each track. To get started with beat matching, you're going to need to know some basic concepts of your controller. The first is your jog wheels. You're going to use the jog wheels to simply feather in the beat just in case it gets off of track a little bit or they don't exactly line up. You're going to use the outer edge to feather them in. If you press down on the center, that's going to act like a vinyl slip mode and you're going to sound like you're scratching. That's not what we want. We just want to nudge the beat in, kind of graciously. That way no one ever knows the difference. Also, you're going to need to know about your tempo or BPM sliders. They're going to move the beats per minute of the track up or down, or the speed, just for layman's terms, they're going to move the speed of the song up and down. That way you can match the two speeds together. Now, in today's technology, there are some cool and simple ways to help you get to where you're trying to go with your beat match. Things such as the sync button, or even on this controller here, they have a beat match guide that's going to make it simpler for you to start beat matching. But I will say, don't necessarily use those as a crutch. They're great tools to help you get started, but I would shy away from it just because then you become dependent on using these tools to help you get your beat in sync. Now, of course, you're going to be using your headphone cue. That way you're cueing up the song in one ear as the other track is playing. Once you think you have a good beat match, you can simply just bring it in and bring the volume fader up if that's how you choose to bring in your next track. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're just kind of glancing the surface, getting you started and getting you comfortable with beat matching. So now that we've explained what beat matching is, let's actually put it to the test and get started using Virtual DJ and the Hercules Impulse 300. Okay, so currently on the Virtual DJ setup right now, we have two different tracks, one of which is tempoed at 114.99, the other one's at 114. These are going to be good tracks to use for beat matching. We've already got our cue point set up, as you can see here on our left deck. Let's go ahead and start with cue number one. Actually, that one doesn't have a cue point set up, so this is a good time to go through and mark that cue point. As you can see right there on the downbeat, that middle slide right there is kind of our constant. That's what we're going to use. That's a tool we're going to use to help us get to that downbeat. Right there. So that's our track for number one over here. Alright, so simply put, what we're going to do is we're going to put our crossfader right there in the center. We're going to make sure that all of our EQs are set to where they need to be. Right there in the middle, and we're going to start playing a track. Over here on the left deck. And you're gonna bring in the next beat or the next song directly on a downbeat. A good part of the song, just tap your foot along to the bass. You're gonna know when to bring in that track. The songs generally run in 8-bar phrases. So you've got a intro, a chorus, a verse, and they're all, you know, spaced or timed about the same. So that's when you're gonna know to bring in the next track. We'll move our crossfader to the center, and we'll start our next track in 3, 2, ready, go. Now you can see right there the beats are somewhat lined up, but they're not perfect, so we're going to use our jog wheel to feather it in. As you can see, the beats are going together, but they're kind of getting lost. This is where you're going to use your jog wheel to line them back up. As you can see, they're back gelled once again, but it doesn't take much for it to get off. And that's what we're going to be doing. Now this is super simple because they're both relatively the same BPM. Now what happens is, let's say if you've got one that's 5 or 6 counts faster than the other track that you're trying to bring in. So let's go with a different track. We're going to drop one that's 120 beats per minute, as you can see down here, and we're going to pull up one that's 128, as you can see here. Now, take notice of our fader right here. You see it's still kind of up. We're going to move our tempo slider on our controller and bring it right back down to where it's supposed to be. And you know you're right there in the middle when you hit double zeros on your BPM there. So, when mixing in 2 tracks that are not the same BPM, let's say like here we've got one that's 120, we've got another that's 128. What I like to do is simply adjust the incoming song to the song that's currently playing. Or if it's, let's say 6 or 7 BPM off like we have here, I like to meet them somewhere in the middle. So instead of bringing our left deck, instead of bringing our right deck all the way down to 120, let's meet in a happy medium and set both of them at 124. Now, of course, whenever you're doing this and it's live, you want to make small adjustments. That way your crowd never knows the difference. Here's what I'm talking about. So to meet in the middle, we're going to simply bring deck number 1 up to 124 slowly. You don't want to do it too fast. Or 24.10. Now we're going to bring deck number 2 down. Doesn't have to be exact because you can always use our jog wheels to line them up perfectly. As you listen, you kind of know the phrasing of the song, and you know when to drop a good downbeat. 3, 2, ready, go. now that we've made our beat match, we can slowly bring down the volume on deck number 1. There you go. Now you know that you've got a good beat match if you can slowly start bringing up the volume back on deck number 1 and it's still lined up. So we'll do that. As you can hear, they're not perfectly lined up, so now we're going to use our jog wheels once again to kind of feather it in. Now remember what I said about the outside of the jog wheel, that's what you're going to be using. If you press in the middle of the jog wheel, you're going to get that and you're going to throw your entire mix off. And that's not what we want. So let's just show you what a bad beat for beat mixing sounds like. So instead of us gelling these two songs together, let's just start off right there at the beginning. This track on the left is at 120. We're gonna move our crossfader to the middle. And even though you drop it on a good spot, because the BPM isn't lined up, it's gonna sound simply like shoes in a dryer, and that's not what we want. You can tell just how bad that sounds. That's not what you want. That is definitely not what you want. Now I will say that this tutorial here is simply glancing over the surface of beat matching. There are several different ways that you can do it. You can get really technical, you can mix in key and other different things to get from one song to the other while making it sound like one continuous mix. But beat matching is the very basic minimum that you need to know when DJing professionally. We'll say another thing on using the tempo faders and the sync button and things like that as a clutch. That's something that you don't want to get used to. My buddy Rick Webb made a video on this very subject as well, and he made a really good suggestion. One thing that you can do to not get too dependent on your laptop screen or your tempo and the software that's helping you and the controller that's helping you is to simply put a towel or a t-shirt over your computer screen. That way you mix by ear. This is something that you need to be doing in your training sessions. You always need to be practicing and listening, training your ear muscle essentially in how to get from point A to point B using simply the hardware in front of you. And that's going to be it for this episode on our series on getting started with DJing using the Hercules Impulse 300. Once again, I do want to say thank you to the fine folks over at Hercules for sponsoring this content. If you like what you see, please leave us a thumbs up. If you have a different way of beat matching or a different beat matching technique, leave a comment in the comment box below. That way we can all help each other and share the knowledge. Once again, my name is djwoopig. If you've got a question for me, shoot it to my email, djwoopig@gmail.com, as well as follow me on any and all social media outlets. It's all labeled DJ Woopig. Be sure to come back for episode 3 in our series where we talk about beat matching and blending two songs together using the EQs to transition from song to song. So I'll see you on the next one.